The Ulans of Marigera 6 strike two large stones continuously during a meal. Humans no longer own each other in that way. Madeline seems to have a very nice relationship with Dix. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 2, Episode 19, Manhunt, written by Tracy Torme as Terry Devereaux, directed by Rob Bowman, and this was June 17th, 1989, after a, looks like 3-week hiatus. Where were you? And what's up, Cirroc? How are you today?
What's up? So yeah, I was wondering this Terry Devereaux name. It did sound like kind of like out of nowhere, but so it's Tracy Torme, who we've seen before,
right?
And Tracy decided to have this this other pseudonym as a writing name. Is that what it is?
I guess so. So I don't know why he chose that. He was definitely on the writing team quite a bit. Maybe they just, sometimes they'll do it if they're not proud of a script. Sometimes they'll do it if they don't want to seem like there was favoritism because he has the Mel Torme last name. But I don't know what the reason for that is. Maybe someone will know in the free-for-all. However, we have a very special thanks to give today to Dr. Brenda Custodio for sponsoring this episode. Our good friend, Dr. Brenda. Thank you so much for that. And now, on with the episode. So, Cirroc.
Yeah.
Favorite episode of the year so far?
No, not favorite episode.
One of.
No, not even in the one of category. But it is interesting. There are elements of it that are interesting, particularly these alien characters that I felt like were original in their design and costume. Extra long arms, this silvery, shimmery wardrobe that was designed for them. Really kind of unusual, like a fish-like alien. I thought there were like, it's just really cool alien design costume. They really showed off their skills in this episode when it comes to the originality of this particular alien design.
What about if I told you that a very successful rock musician played one of the Antedians? That's something.
That would be something. That means they'd have to sit there in that makeup for the whole day.
Well, it was Mick Fleetwood of Fleetwood Mac, the very successful band out of the 70s and 80s. Lots of great songs. Every once in a while, there's somebody that's like a really big Star Trek fan that's just like, I want to be on the show, whatever it is. And they go, all right, put a fish head on you. And it's probably like, cool, deal. And then he does it and he's like, man, I wish I was just an ensign. Couldn't they just have me an ensign walking through the hall?
Yeah, I could have been a red shirt, easy.
Yeah.
I think that's to discourage other people. They don't want a long line of people just saying, hey, we want to be in this. They're like, oh, you want to be in this? Okay. Spread the word. Wasn't James Worthy in a Klingon at one point? That's what I heard about.
Yeah, good knowledge.
So another celebrity guest, and Ira was obsessed with that singer Iggy Pop, right?
Yep, he was a Vorta. We also had Dr. Mae Jemison, who was an astronaut, NASA astronaut. And who's the other one I'm thinking? Oh, Seth MacFarlane, too. He was in 2 episodes of Enterprise, if I remember correctly. I believe it's 2 episodes, but there are tons.
Under heavy makeup, though?
No.
No, Seth was regular.
Yeah, he got to be
and Mae Jemison, was she regular as well, or just herself? Yes. Or okay. So but under the heavy makeup people, I think Iggy Pop as a Vorta, You've got this Fleetwood Mac, Mister Mick Fleetwood himself,
Yeah.
and yeah,
As a
so that's
giant
pretty.
Antedian, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
that's
cool.
pretty cool.
That's like one of those little pieces of trivia. I'm sure there are tons of others. There are also a lot of actors and actresses that we'll see throughout this series that will be like, whoa, that's so and so before they've made it, you know. Uh
Right.
like I believe Terry Hatcher. We saw Terry Hatcher already, right? That was
Yeah.
interesting. And there's Kirsten Dunst. There's Ashley Judd. A lot of people that we'll
Yeah.
see later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's
Well,
them.
that's pretty cool. The aliens were interesting. Like I said again, there were other elements that I also liked. I thought the fact that they were in this catatonic state with their eyes seemingly closed was another just cool touch. Um, so I did like their entire situation, as far as their character. Didn't say much and didn't really have much to do with the plot as a. I guess this was the B storyline, even though it came in as the A storyline, which is
Mm-hmm.
a little unusual for it to be the lead in and not be the A storyline. Structurally, we normally see the lead in be the main thing. So except they are tied into the A storyline of this conference that's happening on this planet. So, which Luoxana is tied in with. I thought Luoxana was the main story of this episode, if stealing the show if she wasn't. But to me, it seemed that she's the main story. And this is the second time we've seen her character, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Right? Is
I
this
believe so.
so? We've already got experience with her. The captain already knows her personality, so there was a kind of a like he already knows what he's in for, or type of thing already set up.
Oh, did you notice? Obviously, we had Chief O'Brien. We had
Yeah.
another Star Trek star appearing in this episode. It was this person's, I believe, very first uh, acting gig on Star Trek. If I think this was their first. It was
Who's that? Who is it? Who is it?
Bob O'Reilly, Robert O'Reilly, Gowron himself. He was like the second gangster guy that went and visited Dixon Hill. Remember the first one pulls a gun on him, and then the second one like grabs him and
Yeah.
strangles him for a second, and then he's gone. And then the first one comes back with like a Gatling gun
Yes.
or machine gun, maybe it was. And so Bob O'Reilly, he only had like one or two lines, and he looked
Yes.
super young and skinny, but that was definitely actually, I'm sure it's, yeah, there he is. Robert O'Reilly playing Scarface was the character.
I didn't even pick up on that. It was
It's very quick.
next time, Bob, make sure your hat's not in the way of your face because you did block your face with the hat, and it didn't give us enough. It didn't give me enough time to recognize that it was you. So a little trick that I'm sure you've long since learned, but open your face up a little bit more to the camera.
Might have been direction too. They might have just said, keep it down
Yeah.
and low and mysterious, which is too bad because you want to have your face seen. I'll be honest though, the Dixon Hill stuff was never my thing. It's just, and some people eat it up. Some people are like, awesome, this is a Dixon Hill episode. I can't wait. What a deal. Madeline's going to be like, how's it going, Dix? Get in there, Dix, there, whatever. And people love that kind of stuff. And then they have like their little gangster talk. But to me, it doesn't, I don't usually like stuff from, late 1800s or early half of the 1900s. That just doesn't really grab me. The one part I did like, though, was when Picard talks about World War II, that little tongue-in-cheek talk about, like, when they're saying Germany's about to invade England, he's like, oh, actually, and he goes on to this. At least that was fun for me.
So, the period piece that is similar to that I did like when I was growing up was Dick Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that there's elements of what they're trying to pull off here that are Dick Tracy like. The problem with it, and the reason why I don't think it resonates with me as well, is that I don't see enough alter in his persona. Um, as far as I still see a stiffness. I think she called Luoxana said he still has a stiffy side, and she calls it like a stiffy side. I don't know what she was looking at exactly, but
I think that's the front.
okay, well, let's say, let's just say that, I feel like he has this kind of, stuffy, sorry, stuffy side is what
Oh,
not
okay.
stiffy.
That makes a little more sense. I was like, wow, I'm surprised I missed that.
Stuffy side. Yeah, he has a stuffy side, and there's a stuffiness to him when he plays even the Dixon Hill characters. Like there's not a smoothness to him. Even for example, the way he was holding the cigarette, he got handed a cigarette. So in that particular character, the guy smokes a cigarette, and he would know that if this is a program that he goes into a lot because the guy's
Mm-hmm.
handing him a cigarette like he knows that he wants one. And the way he handled it was stuffy in a way, like, oh, this thing, as opposed to playing the Dixon Hill
Right.
character and smoking the cigarette, leaning back, playing this more smoother kind of detective guy who's got things figured out. And that's where I don't see enough change behaviorally in Patrick Stewart's performance from Picard to this character. I would like to see a switch where he smooths into this character and becomes this alter ego of himself that's more flirtatious and more just better at the things that he lacks in his own personality. Do you know what I mean?
That's a really good point. It's not really escapism if you're acting like yourself, because that's what he's doing.
Yes.
Like when people do this, it's like a fantasy. It's like, if there's a guy that's super stiff all the time, he's going to go into like a pool party or a frat house or something and just like, or a camping trip and just let loose. But if Picard is, this stuffy, you know, whatever captain, and then he goes into a totally different situation and he's still acting like that, and he's still being rigid, and he's still being very socially awkward, clearly an introvert, and he just stays like that even in his fantasies, then it
Yeah.
seems more like it's cerebral than it is escaping. It seems like it's more like he's reading a book more than he's going on a vacation. And I feel like the holodeck, I guess it could be used for both, but it does seem like he certainly is much more cerebral in his approach to the holodeck, whereas most other people use the holodeck to get away and to have fun and to do some kind of fantasy situation that they don't get to do in real life. But he can act
Yeah.
like a regular Joe or, anywhere. It doesn't
Well,
that's
it's like
true.
if I went into a old Wild West program, I would expect to alter my demeanor, to be ready for a gunfight, to take
Mhm.
10 paces and turn, to be drinking whiskey, to be at a saloon with the doors that flop back and forth, and just be there's a certain saunter I would change up just because I
Totally.
expect it to be a badass in a situation where I know only the badasses survive, right?
Mhm.
And so I just don't see enough of the alteration to his character when he is in his own element, supposedly. He walked in that office, for example, and it was as if he didn't know where to stand and what to do in this office that is is his playground, right? It's like when a kid goes on a playground, they grab the ball, they play the tether ball, they run, they do the hopscotch. They don't need to stand around and look around like, what do we do here on the playground? You know, it's like they just get into the playground. You play handball, you do something, right? You race somebody, play tag. You get in the spirit of the place that you're in. And when he was walking into that office, if that is his office that he often goes to, he would open a drawer and know that there's a box of cigars there waiting for him. He would know certain elements of that space because he's been in there a lot, and it's something that he feels super comfortable with. He cranked, he had the music on, which was an element I wanted to talk about a little bit.
Yeah, it was a cute song, whatever it was. I didn't recognize it, but I was like, oh, that's I actually listened the lyrics, I actually enjoyed the little lyrics for that moment. That was pretty good. But I do see what you mean. It's kind of like, why would you go to, a Risa Beach program on the holodeck, but then show up in like a suit and then walk around on the no, you're going to get in. If you're going to do that, you're going to go play volleyball or go play in the water or whatever. And yeah, he doesn't. And to your point about the Western, I can totally picture that. I feel like within 10 seconds of walking around, you kind of look, you see the barns and the saloons and the people walking around, the horses, and you just kind of would get into a groove. You would just kind of be like, all right, this is nice. You kind of get in a nice little swagger or saunter, and you get into the vibe of it. You start feeling it, but he doesn't. And so it's tougher for us to, but it just seems like these first couple seasons, they're really showing how introverted and antisocial Captain Picard is. It's almost crippling in a lot of ways. Like he can't handle kids. He's not good with Luoxana Troi making passes at him. I mean, obviously it's because he's not interested, but at the same time, he doesn't handle it well. Although it was very funny when he brought Data in. But there are a lot of things that are crippling to him, and it's all social things. And he says the wrong. Sometimes he's too curt with people or too rigid. But
I mean, even his own secretary in the program was surprised that he asked her out for the drink. Right? She's like, "You want to hang out with me? Like, you're a loner. You're awkward. You're the guy who's socially awkward. You don't want me to talk to you. You want me to leave your messages on the desk and not even verbally tell you what it is going on because you have this system that is in play where I have to, write things down, not talk to you, leave it on the desk, and be very short with you in my little brief interaction that I have with you on your way to your office." Mm-hmm. And it doesn't show a good social side of him, which is interesting because, once again, the theme of the show is to explore cultures and new civilization in life. So the guy you would send to go introduce everybody is not the guy who doesn't have the social skills to even get along with his own teammates. You would have a person more interested and curious about people and their behavior and studying them and maybe playing into some of their things and not being so rigid sometimes. But that's how he plays it, and it's just a choice. It's part of his choice.
I wonder if it helps him. I wonder if it, I wonder if the character of Captain Picard is like he knows he's an introvert, he knows he's rigid, and he goes to this thing that's like still kind of rigid and still kind of structured, but a little cooler, a little looser. It's like his therapy, or something where it's like just dipping his toes in something a little different. Maybe he's just doesn't work well with. Well, he does go to Risa. We will see 1 or 2 episodes of him on Risa. That'll be coming up.
Well, to his credit, he also may be facing some of his fears by accepting this position to explore, and he may be challenging himself to try to overcome those deficiencies that he knows he has. So this may be a show that is an attempt to try to work out that therapy of him, self healing of this particular aspect of his personality. So maybe that's what the show in general is trying to seek to do. And over time, we will see him loosen and soften and grow bonds and become more compassionate in certain areas. I don't want to limit the possibilities before I see where it goes. But from this perspective, at least in this alter ego persona of Dixon Hill, I don't see enough to distinguish him from this alter ego or this fantasy that he likes to play out. There's not enough switch and change in his behavior that lets me get involved into the episode where I'm happy to see. Oh, let me go see this side of Picard because this is going to be the cool Picard guy.
Yeah, the fun one, like Data playing one. Carlos. He's like, this is Nails from Chicago, and this is Carlos from South America somewhere.
Yes,
that's pretty good. Good old Data. He knows how to get into character.
Yeah, and Data has fun. He has so much fun, and within the parameters of certain about a rigidity that he has to his performance, right? So he actually uses rigidity as part of his comedy, and his stiffness is part of his shtick.
Like when he was invited to the dinner, that was that had to be the highlight of the episode for me. Was Picard's just thinking, how do I get out of this? What do I do? And he's just like, boy, I'm really curious. Commander Data, what's the answer to whatever the thing was? He's like, this is fascinating. Come on over. And Data is just like a pig in shit there. He's so happy. He's like, oh, well, then there's also this. And he started bringing up like graphs and stuff. Yes. That was great. That's the perfect use for Data. That was a very memorable scene to me. In fact, I think that's the only scene I really remembered from this episode. I remember seeing the Antedians. I remember, these fish people, and I remember it being Mick Fleetwood. But other than that, the only other thing I remember was Data's role in that dinner party for two. And we got to see Mr. Home or Hom.
Yes, that was the other moment that I thought was one of the better moments of this episode, when Picard comes in with that bottle in his hand and Mr. Hom grabs the bottle and just kind of downs the whole thing. I thought that was a nice little fun
nails
moment.
It. But here's the problem with that guy. I never know whether to call him Mr. Hom or Mr. Home. And I think it's because Majel Roddenberry pronounces it both ways. She called him Hom a couple times. And then in the last time she mentioned him, she said, come along home. She said, come along home, which made me think of move along home. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, now I know why I never remembered how to pronounce his name, is because it's been said both ways. It's been said Hom and home. It's very confusing for me.
Well, on the subtitles, it's spelled H-O-M-N.
Yeah. Oh, it should be two M's. H-O-M-M. I don't know what it said on the subtitles, but that's what I'm pretty sure that's the name. And I love that actor. He's got some kind of
how tall is he?
Belgian looking name. Huge. Belgian or Dutch. That's like, where is he? Carl Strijken. So that's got to be for sure Dutch or maybe Belgian. I don't know. Or Carol Strijken. Let me see if it says how tall he is. He looks like he's 7'2" or something like that, right?
He's huge, yeah. He looks huge.
Yeah, I don't see it. Oh, but let's I'm gonna keep looking, but let's hop to our quick break. And then on the other side, we may have an answer for you. Right back on the Seventh Rule.